welcome to the Overheard Podcast, recorded live in Banff. My name is Daniel Ruda. With me always is my co-host,
Matty Rage. Let's go.
What is good? Today, our second guest of the doubleheader, we got Allan Buckingham joining us. Thank you so much for coming by today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
How's the day treating you?
Pretty good. It's a nice day again. We've had some nice September, so I'm pretty happy.
A little chilly. It's feeling like fall, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Finally, yeah.
Shadows are getting long in the day.
I mean, we had a pretty hot September. It was like August weather in September. You can't really complain.
Well,
so
and our highs are still getting up there pretty well.
Yeah,
like,
no,
I
it's
mean,
still
it's cool, and then it's warm, and then it's cool. And as long as you can dress in your layers like you have to when you live in the mountains, you're good to go.
Yeah.
I feel like everything this year's been like a month late, right? Like we got our cold a month late in the winter.
All the rain in July.
All the rain in July. So it's, you know, I was hoping that this would happen. So awesome weather out there. If you haven't been outside, get on outside. If it's your first time joining us, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. We have tons of new viewers every week. I think it's like 93%, like a lot, especially on YouTube.
Nice.
So if you're joining us on YouTube, it's your first time joining us, hit the like and subscribe. Helps us tremendously grow our metrics. Trying to do this full time. So every little bit helps.
Hit that button.
Hit that button. We'll bring you more guests, more shows, more fun. Before we get into it, let's check with our friends over at Drink Shaft. We got to thank our longest standing sponsor. And we got to thank the Rosencrown too. I just picked up my my Glizzy Tower shirt the other day. I was there with my dad.
We still haven't been for a Glizzy Tower. We've talked about it like literally every episode.
It's great.
We got to go get one before.
The merch, even if you don't eat hot dogs, get the merch because it's funny.
Oh, big time.
Anyways, Drink Shaft. Let's go.
We're back, baby.
Are we back?
We're back.
We're back. All right. Welcome back to the show. If you haven't had a Drink Shaft yet, go get some.
No doubt.
I like the non-alcoholic. Matt likes the alcoholic.
I actually don't even. Since we've been having the non-alcoholics, I've just been drinking them like during DJ sets.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah.
Fired up.
Like I said, the last episode, I had 2 the other day while I was DJing, and I was like bouncing.
Hell yeah, dude.
Oh yeah, I was playing drum and bass, you know, so it's pretty quick. You need a little extra juice.
I always keep some on hand for before work. If I'm running late, I don't make a brewed coffee. I just grab one of those, slam it on the way, and I'm ready to serve the night away.
Yeah, I had a night shift last night and cranked one.
Yeah, there you go.
Kept me going till the late hours of the night.
You ever tried one before, Alan? You coffee
I have
guy?
had them before. I love coffee. I like it warm though.
Yeah,
even all
fair.
summer, I like the warm. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, I've thought about like, should I get a shaft, put it in a cup and microwave? Like,
Yeah,
but
stick
is
it
that
in
going
the
to do it?
microwave, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
it's
see why
great.
not. So I'll give it a go sometime.
That's actually a good idea. I
Right?
never thought
It's
that.
ready, quick and easy. I don't know. It feels like it could work.
We might be onto something here. Go get some Townhouse Liquor today. Thank you so much for taking the time for joining us. Before we get too far in, we got a little bit of bio, a little bit of background for Allan if you've never met him before. Allan is a multi-passionate entrepreneur who volunteers and lives in Banff since 2006. Loves canoeing, skiing, and generally getting outdoors. Allan's the founder of Chill Audio Visual Solutions, a company dedicated to providing fun, meaningful jobs and one that pays a universal living wage. You've probably seen Allan around town on their push scooter, as there is no better way to get around Banff in Allan's eyes other than maybe by canoe, as you can tell by the pic we had. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We thought we would start with, where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I grew up partially in southern Ontario and then partially small town Alberta. So I moved from a high school of 2,000 to a town of 600 the year I turned 16.
Wow.
Which is a thing.
Where is that? Where in Southern Ontario?
So Burlington, so outside
Okay,
Toronto.
cool. Yep.
Yeah, and then ended up in Consort, which is kind of, if you take Red Deer and drive to the Saskatchewan border and come back 15 minutes, that's where that is. So it's right in the middle of all the things. So it's like 3 hours to Calgary or Saskatoon or Edmonton.
Yeah.
Cool.
And right around there is a lot of farming. There's a lot of oil and gas.
I used to do bowling tournaments up at the Burlington Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in Burlington.
Bowling.
Yeah, I bowled like when I was in high school for like 4 or 5 years. I had my top average was like a 230. I mean, if you want me on your bowling team this year and you want to win, just saying.
You should join the Grizzly House team. I heard they need some.
My top game was a 297. I was 3 pins off a perfect game.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude, I was pissed.
Little known fact.
Right.
So what brought you to Banff in the first place, Allan?
So, actually, I'm partnered with somebody who grew up here.
Cool.
And so, yeah, I'd spent time in Banff, obviously, before moving here. But Ali and I were in Ottawa. And it's, you know how some people just have this connection to the ocean?
Yeah.
Ali had that connection to the mountains. So every time we came west, even flying over, going to visit relatives of mine in Vancouver or just vacation, seeing those mountains. And she was just like, felt happier. You could just see it. Like, it's not like super conscious. And then, you know, after a little bit back in Ottawa, we kind of get down a little bit again. And so we were looking to move back west. Never thought we'd end up in Banff again, but luck just had it and found a job with Parks. And so moved back here and awesome. So fortunate to be dragged along to Banff. Like
the rest is all history, eh?
Yeah, totally.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Amazing. What is it about Banff that makes you want to call this place home, let alone your partner's kind of love for it?
I mean, wanting to stay with my partner is part of it, and she's not leaving again. So I'm stuck here. Oh, woe is me.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, you know, I love paddling. I get out in my boat. My first summer here, I averaged 4 days a week in the canoe.
Amazing.
Paddling whitewater, which, I mean, how do you beat that start? But I also, when I moved here, I did my kind of requisite 2 weeks in a dish pit and then was working at the Friends of Banff Park radio station. And so really learned a lot about the ecology and the history and all that stuff of Banff. And I just loved it all. It was so interesting. And the more I learned, the more enamored I became with Banff. And I mean, plus then I'm going out and paddling and I'm skiing and I'm seeing all the beauty. But like getting to learn some of that stuff, interacting with so many different parts of the community as we tried to grow that kind of little information station that had little nuggets into a more regular style radio station. Just got to interact with more of the community and I just love it. It's just so much going on.
For sure. The more you dive into the community here, especially people that have been here a lot longer than we have, you find a wealth of knowledge of people, not only like history and wildlife and
well, it's hard not to like get involved in the community when it's like so tight knit, you know what I mean? Like
there's so much to learn too.
Oh yeah. It's wild out here, man.
I implore you all to look into where you're living. There's some beauty here that, like, I don't know, for me, my Banff adventure started on a party trip, you know? I came here to party and snowboard, and now we found ourselves with this place where we're learning more about the history, First Nations, and like, this place is pretty magical. You can see why it gets a hold of you. You know what I mean?
Speaking of long-term locals, like, you know, there's some people that have just, you know, moved out here 40 years ago for a season. Any advice for people looking to make this their long-term home or stay here long-term?
You got to want it.
Fair.
And that's, it makes it harder, but it's also part of what makes Banff to me, and part of what makes the community so amazing is because nobody's just here because they're here.
Yeah,
right.
True.
Like in Ottawa, people were there because that's where their federal service government job was. Right. Some folks love it. It's got lots going for
that's
it.
Where I'm from.
Yeah. Right. And so, you know, there's stuff going on there, and I loved it as a city in some ways too. Also, it just felt like the place that people were, not the place that people wanted to be. But nobody is just in Banff because that's where they are. Like,
you don't just randomly end up here and you're like, oh, I guess I'm here.
Well, and if you do, for whatever reason, you don't last a year or two.
No,
like, you know, because it takes effort to stay. It takes effort to find housing. It takes effort to make connections with the community. And that's part of what I love about Banff. So you got to be willing to make the effort. You can't. Your life is going to be different than it would be somewhere else. And if you want the, you know, white picket fence on a nice lot with a single family home, that is a lot harder to achieve here than elsewhere.
For sure.
And so you got to get your head around that maybe that's not what I'm going to get.
For sure.
And when you live here, you get the benefit of everybody wanting to live here. And that just makes for such a cool community.
Yeah.
That's it. Like the barrier to entry. And like you said, like it's not easy to live here. We all really want to be here. We all
it's kind of a culture shock too when you first move here, right? Like it's just such a different dynamic. Like I remember when I moved here, it was like 2 weeks into my journey out in Banff. My mom called me. She's like, "How is it out there?" I'm like, "It's sick. It's just kind of weird." She's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, you could just walk down the street and like not know that person at all whatsoever. They're like, "Hey man, how's your morning going?" Like, hope you're having a good day. It's like, try that shit in Toronto and see what happens. So you know what I mean? Totally. Like, it's gonna get a fist fight just for saying hello to somebody. But
I did the same. And like I moved to Vancouver at one point and tried the same thing. Like you go to a bar and you're just like, "Oh hey, what's up? What do you?" People looking at you like, "Why are you talking to me?" You'll never get that here. Back onto town council stuff. You've run twice before. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from your two previous campaigns leading into this one?
Right. So, I mean, all kinds of lessons. One of the lessons that I learned pretty specifically is the importance of getting in front of people and actually being able to talk to folks. And I think that's important for anybody.
Right.
But for me specifically, because part of my shtick, for lack of a better term, is like I really focus on a vision of the future, which it takes conversation to know how we agree on that.
Right.
And I'm big on recognizing the complexity that is Banff. And so all the different layers of government, of regulation, of policy, and those implications on how we run our economy and the visitation, like there is just so much going on
For sure.
that I don't have a simple, straightforward answer to a lot of people's questions. And so I can't put out a policy statement that is clear, quick. I want to do this. I want that.
Of course.
And so then the conversation becomes so important. So that opportunity to get out there is huge for me.
Absolutely. I think we kind of bust that on other episodes that like the community has this kind of, not the community has this rumor, but there tends to be this perception that people that are on town council aren't connected to the people that are actually living in the town, which in my opinion couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, from everyone we've talked to, that's like the complete opposite.
These are the people that want to be out there talking
Right.
to people, that want people's input and want people's opinion, not the opposite, right?
Absolutely. But it is still, part of the campaigning, part of the way the system is set up was, so what's your answer to this question? You have 1 minute, go.
Oh, okay.
Fair.
And that's really hard for me.
Yeah.
And even at a door, right? Like if I'm knocking on your door, if I'm not spending 10 minutes with you, it's hard to get across the subtlety and that I get the subtlety and that the complexity is what I love about the politics of Banff is what makes it so interesting and fascinating. If we had simple solutions, I don't know that I'd be into this, right? But you need to think so deep before you could even start thinking that that might be a reasonable answer or solution or tactic to try. And that's awesome. But that takes time.
Well, we're in a very unique position in the sense that our problems or our issues that we will get into in a little bit in town are so nuanced, but we're also under a national microscope, right? Like,
Right, totally.
Everything that we do is under the microscope.
We think we're in this little bubble out here, and like really we're not.
No.
Like, it feels like that when you're here,
Totally.
but
We kind of are, but it's like the snow dome that people are looking in from
Yeah,
outside, right? We're in this and
Yeah.
people are watching to see, oh, how's the snow going in there today? It's like, what's shaking?
So what motivates you to try again? Why do you keep going after it?
Well, so I did not want to try again this, and my spouse definitely did not want me to try this one again because it's a lot of work. This campaign thing is so much to do in so little time. It's rough. And I think I would do good at the job. People tell me I would do a good job, but I have no need to do that. Like I can participate in other ways. I have been participating in other ways,
sure.
right?
Like-
And so I was like, no, I don't need to do this again. My ego does not need this. My ego does not want to lose again, so it wants me to stay away from this. Honestly,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And over the last year or so, I had more people from different parts of the community asking me to give it a go again.
Amazing.
And so, in different parts than had before, right? And so to have different groups of people coming up to me and saying, no, we really think you should give this a go again. We realized too late that you might have something to offer last time. Would you be willing to try it? And so I was like,
sweet.
I don't know that I want to, but you hear that enough and you think you would like the actual work. Like I read council agenda packages for fun. I'm reading all the
Yeah, you're
minutes.
already
Like,
doing it anyway.
I'm doing it anyway. So if I can actually be there, well, there is appeal to that.
And also being rewarded for your time of,
Oh, for sure. I mean, I feel like, being an engaged member of the community, I feel like I get to influence in different ways than on council. So I am rewarded in some ways. But being there, it's a whole different thing.
What are some of your larger kind of goals or vision that you're bringing to the table this time? Like we said earlier, we don't want to ask you specific.
No, and I'm happy with the specific questions too. But really, I'm going to pull back and be like, okay, so what I think we need is to focus more on where we want to go. And so, and not that we're not doing that, but I feel like we spend more time on dealing with specific issues, like reacting to, oh, this is a thing now, a thing that we might have been able to see coming. And in fact, we did see coming 10, 15 years ago, but we weren't focused on how do we prepare for that now, for that eventuality later. And so then when it comes, it hits us a little more square in the face. And so I think doing a little more focus on, okay, so where's this plan? Where are we going? That's going to be super helpful. And then working back. And so we're avoiding some of these last minute, reactive decisions that then have knock-on effects that we're not ready for either, but we tried to adapt to this thing that was a real issue now.
Yeah.
And that kind of thinking,
when it comes up,
that in that complexity, that's that's really why I'm into it.
Down to? Do you think that comes down to like lack of like looking into these, or lack of studies or research?
No, we've
as we're
got
leading up
so
to
many
them?
of those things. Like we have some great plans. Are we actioning all of them as well as we should? Maybe, maybe not. It's really easy to get something comes up, like somebody calls you, somebody emails you at work, or somebody comes into the bar or whatever, right? They take your attention because they are right there.
Yeah.
And keeping that broader focus on, making sure that I have enough time to prep myself so that in the future, life will be easier is hard, right? Like one of the weird things that I do that people think I'm crazy about is I do my dishes every night. Before I go to bed, my dishes are done every single day because I don't want to have to deal with that shit the next day.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I'm ready and I have more capacity the next day. And someday I might not, but I want to be ready. And that takes more time then. And if I go out and I do something, then I don't feel like I necessarily want to do that prep. But you got to still be willing to do that prep.
For sure. I kind of feel that way. And we prepare this show, right? Like we'll get all this done beforehand. And then when it comes time to do the show, it's like, are you nervous? Like, well, no, the work's already done. We just have to have the conversation. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely a good attitude to have on a larger scale when we're talking about the town.
We try to come up with notes on the spot. We'd be sitting here talking about nonsense for an hour at a time.
Which can also be fun, but it's a different kind of thing, right? And I think as the municipality, we need to be reacting. Stuff still happens, but we're going to have less stuff to deal with if we've got this vision, if we know where we're going, and we're prepping and getting ready and building that as we work towards it.
Nice.
For sure, because I think if you look at a lot of the numbers in the studies, like numbers are not going down.
No.
And we've known that for a long time now, right? So again, now I like the metaphor of it kind of slapping us in the face, where we're all talking about over-tourism and all these things, which we will dive into in a little bit. First, I want to touch a little bit on housing, if that's okay.
For sure.
On my research on you, I've saw that you were part of the Banff Housing Corporation, serving as its chair from 2018 to 2022. How has that role shaped your understanding of where we are in our current housing crisis?
So being part of the Housing Corporation, I mean, it was so interesting in a lot of ways, and I love the work that they're doing, but it was also great to get that kind of closer interaction with specific stories about housing.
Fair enough.
And the policies that we have as a community and how that interacts with housing. And so I'm a bit more analytical than some folks. And so I can separate some things, and less emotion might go into it. So getting the examples from people with that extra emotion into it was great. So I can see the housing policy line and be like, okay, this makes sense. I can see why we've got policies in the housing corp where you can't just rent it, you can't just leave it vacant, you can't you have to ask permission for these things. Yeah, that makes a tons of sense in the analytical way and the policy way. Right. But then when you hear the story from somebody who's like, I just got offered a year of work in New Zealand, and so can you let me rent my house that I own for that year? And you get to say yes or no. Do you think it's a worthy thing for this person to have this awesome opportunity to improve their career? That feels a little weird, and I get the policy thing. So, but then they come back 6 or a year, like after a year, and say, well, I just got extended for another year. And you're like, well, the policy says, actually, we can't give you more than a year.
Okay.
And so you're just going, okay, but how is this house, which is important for all the people and why the rules got set up, but it's actually their home with that emotion tied to it, and they're still connected to the community and may want to come back. How do you tell somebody, like, no, actually you can't do that? Sell your house, and then you come back in a year after that and you find something new, or you go back to the bottom of the list and stuff. That's rough. And so learning some of that and getting the emotional human bit in with the policy bit was super interesting. Very cool. Love that.
Well, I think that's an often overlooked aspect. Honestly, we've been talking a lot about housing, and we're talking a lot about numbers, right? A lot about, physical changes in law and legislation to allow for more housing, but we kind of forget a lot of the times that, like you said, the emotional side.
There's a human side to it too.
It's also somebody's home, right? Yeah. And question came in, somebody doing some end of life planning stuff. So this was all theoretical, but they're just like, so if both of us died, could one of my relatives come and live in the house with my children? So my children didn't have to leave their community because we died, but those people coming in, potentially my parents, would not have a need to reside because they live in town and in the housing corp.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right? Because both of those are, and they would not have, so how do you humanize this policy? On paper, this stuff makes sense. And when you get into the real world, that complexity that we are, even in the policy, just expands.
For sure.
And how do you deal with that? It's
that's crazy.
Yeah. super interesting.
Well, it's a big part of why we do this, right? And why we like talking about it is humanizing these issues and humanizing people that are running for council. Because I think people are quick to fire off comments or to talk ill about people on the internet specifically. When we're all here trying to do, we all want the same things. We want we want protect the environment. We all want a nice, great place to live that's affordable, that's, somewhat safe, or
absolutely safe, inclusive. Like, we want people to feel welcome, no matter where they're from, no matter who they are. Like, these are all things that we want, obviously, but it's not straightforward or easy.
No doubt.
Well, this question is pretty straightforward. It might not be easy, but a lot of residents often feel squeezed by housing affordability and availability. In your opinion, what's the most realistic way forward from a housing perspective?
Yeah, the most realistic thing is paying attention to all the complexity, and that's not that straightforward, easy answer. But it is, like, we've been doing a lot on supply, which I think is awesome. But it's also not the only part of it. That demand side, which I know you've talked about with other people as well, is also important. So what kind of incentives can we have that recognizes people as people, recognizing people's desire to live in town, but like, how do we reduce that demand pressure as well? What kind of incentives can we create as the municipality so that businesses are maybe looking at different options in different ways? And they kind of do it anyway, because that's the business of making money, is how do we staff properly, and how do we, like, if staff become more expensive or we can't find them, how do we do stuff differently? But I think as the municipality, there might be things, maybe not, but there might be things we could do that kind of gives a little push. Oh, do you actually need more people to do the job you're trying to do? Not telling business how to run that. They do their thing. But, as the municipality, if there's things that we want to see happen, how do we give those nudges and encourage that behavior we want? So keep on the supply. I'm not saying don't deal with supply.
For sure.
And what kind of demand stuff can we do too? So it's looking bigger picture, not just what the easy stuff is, what everybody does. We are different. We can't just only grow and fill that supply, which is what you want to do everywhere else. We got to look at that demand side too.
100%, right? I mean,
we're on a fixed footprint, right? So
absolutely.
It's not like, you build more businesses, just expand town. It's like, we can't really do that. So
no, which is awesome. Like, to me, that is actually one of the things that makes Banff so amazing, is that we have that, and we have to figure out how to live within that. Right? Like, the whole world is a limit on growth at some point in some way. And we're a little microcosm that has this artificially forced on us. And how do we be that example of this is actually doable? And I think we can. And that's one of the things that's exciting for me, is like, how do we be that model community and demonstrate to the world?
Well, I think we have that opportunity here, right?
For sure.
Like we mentioned earlier, being under the national microscope, being that we have what seems like unlimited visitation, right? Like,
totally.
Business is booming in Banff. It never really isn't, right? So I think putting the resources that we do have into the right places to kind of get what we want out of the final situation should be the focus.
And that takes me a little back to that vision. What do we want? How do we move towards that, right?
Which is kind of what the town council is doing now with the community plan.
Yep.
Do you think there's anything that's missing in that community plan that can maybe better support Banff's frontline workers?
So frontline workers is a tough thing for council to directly deal with, right? So it's, I mean, yes, residents as a whole are part of it, but signaling,
it'd be more businesses.
Well, businesses, but it's also, we've got some great community groups, right? So like, first one that comes to mind is Banff Pride. I'm on the board, so it's I know what's going on there a little more intimately, and our strategic plan does focus on how do we make Banff a more inclusive place? How do we help businesses make their workplaces more inclusive and safe for all the residents, right? And so that's one thing that, some of those organizations within town can do. I know the Bow Valley Immigration Partnership also does a lot with their inclusion charter on making it more accessible for people in town. And I think that kind of stuff is pretty great.
For sure. I think as far as inclusion goes, like, Banff's pretty chill and welcoming to everyone. Like, we welcome people from all over the world. I don't think and that kind of stuff does help those workplaces, help those frontline workers. And I think another thing we can look at kind of ties back to the housing is that connection between employment and housing. Right.
And how can we, again, encourage, it's another thing for the municipality to deal with straight up, but how do we foster a place where businesses can look at different options for how they provide that staff accommodation or how it's run? And because that tie there, I get it. And
like, do you think staff accom is a good thing? Like, I think it's a good thing to start to like get your foot in the door if you're staying for 6 months or 1 year. But then, like, at what point do we push businesses to do the staff accom thing where long-term housing becomes an issue.
Well, there's some businesses with good long-term housing, right? Like,
For sure.
some Caribou housing, they've got some great, executive level stuff. Parks Canada, like some of the parks housing, like they got
Parks
some.
housing is sick.
I mean, some of it's really not well kept, but some of it's amazing, right? And so, but how do we not have that? But you still have that direct tie, right? And so, is there a way we could facilitate a third party, a nonprofit, or something that takes that burden away of managing those things from some of the businesses who want in? Not saying we're forcing anybody to do it. And then you don't have that direct tie. So maybe you're getting a 6-month lease for a thing. And if you're on a house or you're in an apartment that's somebody within the group, has put in, right? So you could move around businesses within a little group rather than just tied direct to employer.
So kind of the same concept as Staffacom, but ran through a third party where it offers a little bit more security for the tenant, whereas maybe they have a little leeway if they get fired or their job is seasonal.
Exactly. And that could benefit the employer in a lot of ways too. And now, is that going to be the bestest idea ever? Maybe, maybe not. But I'd like to see us looking at different ways we can kind of change up that dynamic.
Right. Yeah, because
great solution.
It does suck. Like, you lose your job and you got 24 hours to find somewhere to live.
Right?
Like, you're basically shit out of luck.
And I mean, as an employer, I can see how that's not great for you either.
No.
Like, you're dealing with some more frustrated people. So the staff having to deal with that or dealing with that stuff too. Yeah. And people at your, in your business might not be telling you honestly things that you might find helpful and you might not want to fire them for. But if they're afraid of that dynamic, then you might not be able to grow and expand in ways that are beneficial for you either, because the power dynamic is just tough.
And not to mention like property damage and like other issues
like
that
people
come
who
with,
are pissed off are never good, right? You don't want to deal with that.
No.
Yeah, I think it's mutually beneficial to have a good housing situation.
Absolutely.
Disgruntled tenants or employees, not good in the
right?
You know what
not,
I mean?
not good. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. Let's move on to overtourism. Obviously, huge term being thrown around, not just in Banff, all over the world. What are your thoughts on it? And do you think it's a problem that we're faced here?
So that is a super important question that is really difficult to answer. And because it pulls in so much of those complexities that I've been already talking about, right? Like sometimes I feel like I'm just like, it's all about complex and like it's a cop-out, but it's actually the reality and actually what we need to be dealing with. And there's not like, I can't give you a 2-line answer or a 2-paragraph answer. And I think anybody who tries to is either doing you a disservice, not thinking that you will understand the complexity, or they don't get it themselves.
Right.
And so part of what needs to happen to me is to go into that a bit more. So like, okay, what's that mean to you? Right? What is overtourism? Because there's no definition that isn't subjective that I've ever seen.
I think it's tourism to the point where it becomes unfavorable to the end user, right? So the amount of people that you have in a certain space makes it uncomfortable to say an experience that maybe they were expecting, right? So it's like my main example when I think of overtourism is people that come into my restaurant, or not my restaurant, the restaurant that I work at, sorry. Come to the restaurant that I work at and they say, oh my God, we went to Lake Louise today. We were there at noon or 1 p.m. It was a nightmare to get there. And then when we got there, it was like a concert. There was so many people around and it's not the serene picture of an empty lake that you see advertised to you, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of that for me is what I think of when it's over tourism. It's like the end user is promised something that is not being delivered because the amount of people there is hindering that experience.
Right. So then to me, and this is how my brain works a little bit. So then is the problem the situation that person was in or their perceptions of what they were getting when they got there?
Fair enough.
Right. You know, and how many people are too many people changes for everybody, right? You, me, you, like it's probably different.
Well, even when I moved out, like I was like, oh yeah, man, like you see pictures of Banff online and you're just like, oh, there's like no one there. It's just like pure wilderness. And then you get here and you're like, there's fucking 40,000 people in a 2-block radius right now.
Yeah.
Like,
and I don't
know
the last time you went to Johnson Canyon, but like that lineup for that waterfall picture. But the waterfall picture, there's nobody in it because everybody's being polite and lining up.
Yeah.
And so you can still get that picture with nobody else because people are politely waiting. But if you want that picture, you got to freaking wait in line.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't want to wait in line, don't wait in line.
Yeah.
And so, but it makes it, again, the complexity, the difficulty of the conversation is, what do you want? What are your expectations? How do we line those up? So that's part of what goes into this over-tourism thing.
Fair enough.
And there's so much more, right? Because folks will go into, it's too many people in town, it's too much traffic. It's, okay, so what is that though? Like, let's have the conversation about is it something you're missing? Is it something you don't like? Are your expectations off? Not saying that there's not potentially more people than a space can handle. But why? What is it?
I just think it's like, we don't want to be hypocrites in the sense that we say tourism is bad. We're built on tourism. We need tourism. We all need tourist dollars in our pocket. We can't live here without tourism. But it's like, what is the number? What is the is it when vehicles? Is it a number of vehicles? Is it a number of people? Is it?
And yes, that can be part of the conversation, but why is an arbitrary number a something? Or is it the effect on an experience?
We need a number, or we don't? Are we?
I don't know.
Yeah.
There might be a number that makes sense, but what is the goal? What are we after? What is that vision that we're looking at? Do we want people to feel like they have breathing space walking down the street?
Yeah.
Right? So if that's the goal, how do we make that happen? And part of that might be a number, but it might not be, right? Or is it setting up expectations? I don't know if you've ever been hiking in South Korea, but some of those hikes, you're like, this from the person in front of you, and like
Crazy.
people like line up to park to then walk in a single file line with their closest friends they've never met before.
I've never seen that.
and go up this hiking trail in the backcountry.
Is that where we're headed?
But they love that.
Yeah.
Like that's a backcountry experience to them. That is not to me.
No.
You know, I hear of German tourists coming over who like were up in Yukon and saw another boat on their canoe trip and were like, oh, I thought we were getting wilderness here. They were out for a week and saw one boat, and that was too many.
Fair.
Like, so there's so many factors that go into this. It's hard to necessarily, that's why I like to focus on, okay, what do we want? Right? Rather than, oh, here's where, like, we've got some limits and they're great, and maybe more is helpful. But actually, what are we going for? And let's figure that out, and then we can try and get there well.
Would you ever support a cap in the summer months? If it were determined to be beneficial?
Yeah, like I'm not against it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I definitely want it either, because there's so much context that needs to go in it. I can't honestly say yes, that I want it, or no, I don't want it, because what's the whole, what is it for? What's the goal? Is it going to help us get there? If it's going to help us get somewhere that we agree as a community we want to go, maybe that's a good thing to be doing, if we can do it well.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. There's tons of questions beside that, right? There's limiting movement. The town cannot limit movement. They can't tell people not to, especially on Highway 1. It's
and do we want to?
Do we want to disincentivize
in some ways,
people
maybe, but in other ways not, right?
Don't come to our tourist town.
And like,
kind of dumb.
And don't come, and like, you know, Aunt Sally, don't come visit me. Just on a whim, because you don't actually have the permit to come visit me. Like, who wants to tell their relative to not just drop by as they're passing through for an hour, right? So like, there's so much that goes into it that it's really hard for me to be there right now, but that doesn't mean there's not a way we can do it that makes sense and is useful later.
What do you think are some of the ways that we can have those conversations to come to these conclusions?
I think more open, honest, like kind of big picture conversations would be awesome. Just to like throw out ideas and not say we're doing it, but to just like as a community figure out ways to have conversations, whether that's, you know, trying to encourage as a council or as different organizations in town, being like, okay, so here's a thing, talk. Like sit in small groups, go around. Do you care about this? Like have a conversation, and folks like yourselves highlighting some of those conversations or the other media outlets so that people know the conversation is going on. So when we move a little bit in one direction, we don't have this, oh my God, where did this come from reaction and just viscerally react like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like we need to be warming ourselves up to some of these bigger conversations before we get there.
Also, the way that we look at planning and the way that we look at these types of issues is generally one plan, yes or no, instead of like 3 plans or 4 different plans or an amalgamation of a whole bunch of different plans that maybe can fit together at some point.
Yeah.
I think maybe in our way of thinking, it's usually we set this forward and it's yes or no. Whereas I think maybe more collaboration, like we discussed a possibility of having like citizens in the discussion with Parks Canada in the town, and you know, opening those doors up a little bit more. Not that they're already transparent. I don't want to make it seem they're plotting behind the scenes, because they're not.
They're not. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I like having different communities that are involved in tourism that are connected to each other, sharing that information and sharing maybe the same goals or same plans even on how to move forward.
For sure. And like part of, you know, working on, so I was on the advisory committee for the Banff community plan, right? And so some of the work we did was look at the plans that the community, that exist within the community. So that's some that the Banff Lake Louise Tourism did, that Lead Tourism for Good plan, that if, you know, influenced what we were talking about. All the community, all the master plans that the town has done, that was in there. Some of the work of the Banff Canmore Foundation and some of their planning, like we look at some of these things and be like, hey, so how can we hear what people have already been saying and doing and bring that together into this community plan, which is not perfect, because nothing that we're trying to get everybody in town to feel okay with is ever going to feel perfect to you or to me.
For sure.
It's impossible because we're so many different points of view.
And you can always nitpick one part, where, there's always, we've discussed this with multiple counselors or council hopefuls that you're never going to please everyone.
No. If you do, you're not doing anything.
You're not being an effective politician, in my opinion. Right? What would you say to the residents that feel Banff is becoming more of a theme park than a national historic park town? Super interesting question. Like, so I just got to go into that. Like, where does that come from? What does that mean to you? Like, more focused on business and less on heritage.
Right. But again, so people who have that opinion, which I've heard, like, I want to go into the conversation. So, okay, like, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but like, why do you think the question implies it's a bad thing? So why would that be right? And that's the conversation I want. And you don't need to defend that question. I mean, we can have it if you want to.
For sure.
But part of my reaction to almost everything is like, okay, so what does that actually mean to you, so that we can get to those root things, right?
Well, I'll give you an example. So during the pedestrian zone conversation, right, is what is the purpose of the town in the national park, and is as kind of a refueling station to cater to tourists that are coming to enjoy the national park. Now, is coming to enjoy the national park eating a burger on Banff Ave and taking a picture, or is enjoying the national park exploring the trail system, engaging with nature outside of the town site? Like, what does that mean?
Is it lining up at Scoops for 3 hours for an ice cream, or is it like, camping, hiking, fishing?
So it's like that would be kind of the more theme park acts. Are we here to sell beaver tails and to have people flood the town site to spend their money? Or are we encouraging people to enjoy the national park outside of the town site?
So some interesting questions within that, right? So is enjoying the national park within the town site, if that is your comfort with being out of a city, is that a good national park experience?
Fair enough.
I mean,
right? I definitely, there are people who coming out to Banff, they're getting out of their comfort zone, hanging out on Banff Ave and going to Central Park and maybe going down to Bow Falls. So, and do we want, can the national park handle if they all went into the backcountry? Like, concentrating the people in town for a national park experience that may not be my ideal of a national park experience.
Right.
Means that they're not disturbing the bears and the wildlife by going and keeping those trails fully occupied out into the backcountry, which they may not want to do either. Yeah. So that's part of the wanting to get into stuff, right? Is like, what are we meaning, and maybe how does that work?
A more business focused approach than an ecology focused approach.
Sure, but again, if we're going to have people in the town, we need to have the municipal infrastructure, and we get that through our taxes primarily from businesses. So in order to pay for that experience that we get to enjoy as residents, and keeps the visitors who want a less backcountry experience occupied and experiencing the park in the ways they can, we need some revenue to make that happen. We're not going to charge them straight up on the street, hey, you're using this bench, that's $5. That's not how that works.
No, definitely not.
And so how do we create an atmosphere, recognizing that we're here for different reasons and the different people want different things that work for those different people, and it's not necessarily the experience I want, right? But that's what I want is not what it's all about.
Because again, like maybe getting people onto the trail system, and that might be a way to alleviate traffic, which is our next point of conversation here. What do you think the most practical way forward is to deal with our traffic problem in the summer months?
Yeah, so there's, again, so much that goes into it, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing that also goes into it, as well as all the policy stuff, is our individual choices. And I think sometimes the traffic one, we talk about people coming in and whatever, and we focus less on our individual choices. And so like, I recognize that I am an outlier here, and my family is an outlier, but we've been car free for like 7+ years.
They're crazy.
We started when we had a 6-year-old. Okay.
Wow.
And we're just like, we don't actually use this that often.
Yeah.
Why do we have it? And how do we, and there's opportunities to not need it. Right. And so, and my kid goes to school in Three Sisters. So like when I go to school meetings, I'm like double busing to get up there,
Yeah,
right? Or I'll take my bike, so I'll take the number 3 and then I'll bike up to Three Sisters or whatever. Like there's option. We have the options, but like those choices are things, and I don't expect everybody to do that, right? Like it's not. But we still get in the backcountry. I rent vehicles all the time. The lovely folks at Avis, hi. We're on first name basis because I'm there regularly, but I don't need my own vehicle, and then I'm using it to get around. I take my wagon to the grocery store. Yeah. I can bike around. That is part of how if we can make it easier for people to live in town, to get to trailheads, to get into the backcountry without needing a personal vehicle, then we're reducing that. So I think that's part of it.
Which on that topic, I think they're about to start a rental program.
That's right. The car share is coming in too. Yeah. And I'm so excited for the car share. Cool. Partially because it just changes the hours, right? Right now, when the car rental place is open, that's when I can get a vehicle. So to be able to pick something up at 7 p.m. would be lovely.
For sure.
And I also love the way we're doing it. So one thing that I super excited about how the town is doing it is they're not giving a grant. They are not paying for it. They are backstopping a private business. So they're saying, if you don't make your $75,000 a year that you need to determine that it's viable, we will top you up. Okay. So we're only committing what they're not making anyway. So if they make their 75 grand,
it costs
us nothing.
Interesting.
And I think that's a great creative solution.
So it only becomes costly if it's underutilized.
That's right. And then we can determine if it's worth it still to keep building. Are we getting close? Are we moving in a good direction? Right. Do we want to keep supporting? Or maybe we're just like, cool, but they weren't willing to come without that backstop because they weren't confident in it. So how do we look at that as a different model and how we help some of that transportation stuff and other things in town too, where the municipality is not in for all of it. We're just encouraging the market to do stuff that it might not do otherwise.
Loss potential.
Right.
Risk, right?
That's right. You're de-risking, right? Because you're going to make a certain amount of money. So you're more willing to give it a go.
Because that raises an interesting question. Like if you had easier access to a vehicle, would more locals be purchasing vehicles? And like you said, if you're only using it certain days, right?
Yeah. Right.
Interesting questions. What are your thoughts on the train station ARP and specifically paving more intercept parking in the Banff National Park?
So I really like this question.
Yeah.
And I actually want to, if you don't mind,
please.
I like just having the conversation, but I actually want, I've got not notes. I just want to have the question in front of me. Because there's so much into the question and the phrasing. And I want to use it as an example of how my brain works.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I read this question the first time, I'm like, okay, so paving jumped out at me as a word. Okay, so what does paving mean? And I just want to go through and then we can have a conversation. So, and then I read more intercept parking. Okay, so intercept parking is also a thing. So we've got paving, we got intercept parking in the national park and in the national park and how that's related to the town site and the park.
Yeah.
So that's, my brain goes there too. And then we've got the whole implementing the train station ARP thing there, which is being correlated in a question to intercept parking for obvious reasons. And to paving and to the national park. And so I'm just like, so much in here. This is where my brain goes, right? So like in the national park, the town is in the national park and we've carved out a bit of the national park that says this is what's going to be the town site. This is to service the visitors primarily. We're still part of the national park.
Yeah.
And this carved out purpose that we've said no more. And Parks has been awesomely strict on not letting us do intercept parking just at the edge of town. And it's just parking and it's not. No. And that's awesome because that forces us to be more creative, to be more innovative, which I think is awesome. But we're still working within this bit, still in the park, but it's the part of the park that's been assigned to service the visitors. So should we be using it for that purpose? So that's part of your question, right? Intercept parking. Do we like intercept parking? Is intercept parking a good idea? That's a whole part of this question too. Where should that be?
Should we support more of it?
Should we support more of it? Are we being short-sighted if we don't recognize that Calgary keeps growing and right now that's their way to come here, right? And then paving, I want to go to the paving now and I'll get back to the intercept parking again. So are we talking about actual paving? Are we talking about graveling? Are we talking about taking down, like all of this comes into it, right?
So we're talking about the northern part of the rail.
I know where it gets to, but it's phrased as intercept parking and then the ARP is tied to it. But what about intercept parking elsewhere? Are we still doing other things? If it's in the town site, so if we're paving, is that different than if we're graveling? Does that make a difference for reclamation? What is intercept parking as a surface lot versus a parkade? How easy it is to then, if we don't need it anymore, when we don't need it anymore, hopefully, what does that mean? So how do we play? Like all of those things come into my head, right?
Well, graveling is an interest. No one's brought up graveling before.
Like, and does that make a difference? Does it make a difference for wildlife? Maybe not, probably not, but maybe. Like, so much goes into this, that first part of the question. And then you tacked on and the ARP. And I'm just like, well, and that's a whole conversation of itself. But that's like that complexity I love and I think is super important. And that's where my head goes for almost all of these questions. This one, I just was like, oh, so much in here. So I wanted to use it as the example of like, here's why I have struggles in campaigning, because I can't give you your one-line answer to this question, which people do.
Right.
And I can't, because there's so much in there and it matters so much. Because if we just say no, okay, what are all those knock-on effects? Have we thought of that? If we just say yes, what are all those knock-on effects? Have we thought of that? I don't think we can do that. And I think too often that's that reactive, and then we're stuck reacting to either the last thing we did or the thing we're not there for yet. And so preparing where we want to be and moving that way, does this fit into that whole vision? How might it change if we did a parking lot for 10 years and then we reclaimed it fully? Is that a doable thing? Is that going to worth it? What are the effects? What trades can we make that might help that wildlife corridor on the north side of the tracks? Do we need anything on the north side of the tracks? What would that look like? Like, I want all of those things to be part of the conversation and how we look at things, because that is how complex we are and how we need to look if we're going to work within that framework.
Right. There's no cookie cutter solution. Like, you're not just...
Then what would you say to those that are like demanding action and demanding direct, like...
Yeah, because there's people...
Hold on to your horses? Like, I don't know. There's like...
No, totally. Yeah. We need to be saying, okay, what can we do now? And that moves us in that direction that we're looking towards. And so what can we try that maybe will give us a sense of, is this going to work? You know, how do we look at, okay, so if we do this, what are the knock-on effects? Like, how do we do a kind of 360 review of some of these things and be like, okay, so what's short-term? So if it doesn't actually work, can we pull the plug easier? Like, how do we set ourselves up for those good things? Like, I'm all about trying. I love that the town of Banff has actually been willing to try and keeps trying things.
Very proactive. Like,
and we'll scrap stuff. Like, you know, I don't know if you remember angle parking on Beaver Street, right? That's one of my favorite examples of like town council was just like, we need more parking. We're going to do some angle parking on Beaver Street. And all the people who live in those apartments were like, my eyes, because the lights were going right into their things. And they're like, okay, we gained 50 parking stalls or whatever it was.
At what cost?
And that's not worth it. And so they scrap it, right? Like, let's keep doing that. And let's try some of this stuff that we think might help us, but let's not buy in fully.
Not overdo it.
Or
we can't go back.
That's right. That's right. Like, so we got to play that game.
Fair. I think, well said, right? It's
there's no easy solution to anything in Banff. It's just such a unique, like, town site, and just the way everything works here is just, you can't just say, go ahead.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe there are some things that we can, in which case we should just be doing it, but also we've done most of those things. Like the easy stuff. If it was still easy, we would have done it.
I like the things like paid parking and these types.
But that
of
wasn't even easy, right? Like, that took, a petition, and it got scrapped, and then it came back, and then it, like, there's so much that goes into it, right?
And I think perception too, right? Like, public perception of paid parking at first was a nightmare, and I think now that it's kind of become a reality, people are a little bit more open to that. It's a necessary evil, and to have these solutions, it has to be a give and take. It can't just, like, these solutions don't just come out of thin air.
No, and we got to try stuff and see how it goes, and then adapt it, because we're probably going to do it wrong the first time. Like, probably are.
Given the growing trends in Western Canada when it comes to wildfires, what are your thoughts on our current readiness? I was just in Jasper this past week playing some golf, and pretty eye-opening when you're driving into the town of Jasper, probably from, I think, Sunwap to Falls on. It's pretty eye-opening. Yeah.
No, my family went up this spring, and I was unfortunately out of town, so I didn't get to go. We go up every spring kind of to do a camping trip in Jasper, and I saw pictures and stuff. So super important. Like, and people's emotions around wildfire is also an important thing to pay attention to, right? So the town has done some great planning and has some plans, and people still feel like they don't get it in the same way. So that's something we have to deal with, I think, because so also I feel like I need to bring into the conversation, like, my dad and partner were evacuated 3 times, I believe, from 100 Mile House. So they lived up in kind of the interior BC.
Oh, okay.
And so, like, one time the fire was like you look across the field and that other side of the field, like that's where that line was, right? So that's how close to their house it was, right? And they were down on the coast for like weeks, and they come back and their fridge is like exploded. They can't open it, and like, you know, it's a safety hazard and all that stuff, right? So I have not a firsthand personal understanding of that emotion, but
some close knowledge,
some pretty close knowledge of what that is, and that is real and intense. And they had a whole different view of what an evacuation plan looks like after the first time they were evacuated, and after the time where it actually came close, because the first time it was fine, like nothing got, I mean, still stuff going on is still traumatic, but you know, it wasn't as big a rush. It was just that you should go out, and then, you know, so how do we make sure that we recognize that and recognize the complexity of what an evacuation could look like? In part, I think we're leaning too far to not giving as much information because we don't know what it'll look like, and we don't want people to do the wrong thing because of the situation. So just like, wait, and we'll tell you what to do. Well, that's fine for analytical Allan, but that's not necessarily fine for somebody whose emotions are in it. They need to know, like when you're in a hotel room, it says, here's your evacuation plan, right? And they might change that on you because the fire is in that way, but at least they know my default evacuation plan, here's what to do. And so I think that level of comfort could be improved by putting some of that more public, even though I get why we're not.
For sure.
I think that might be a useful thing, but I do think we have some good plans and have thought through a lot of things, but also by putting some of that stuff out, you get some of that people giving you ideas that you never thought of. And, you know, some of them will be stupid, but some of them would be awesome. So
true. Yeah, I got to give a big shout out to the people of Jasper, man. Like that place is on the rebuild steady. Tons of interim housing going on there. So like the residents that do want to be there can be there. Heart goes out to them, man. It's crazy rebuilding going on.
Absolutely.
It's wild.
And for us, recognizing that we might need to rebuild.
That could be us, yeah.
And so what's our rebuild plan?
We talked about that with Peter Poole, and it was like having legislation in place on how to rebuild in case of infrastructural damage would be huge, because in these events, you're right, you're removing legislation to get things done quicker.
That's right.
We want quite the opposite, right?
That's right. And so in part of the community plan advisory committee discussions, that came up too. And we're like, so there's a little bit of language in there that hints at that being a useful thing to do. And so, which is great, because I think that recognition, but there's so much stuff to do too.
For sure. One small drop in the
and a super important one, and one, you know, like,
right on. What are some of the ways that we can protect the quality of life of residents, all while bettering the guest experience?
Are those different?
Good point.
I don't know.
Very good
like
point.
One of the things I love about living in Banff is that there are so many services that I would not have in any other community of 8,000 people. So you're you're improving the guest experience, but that improves my experience as a resident. You improve my experience as a resident, and often the guests notice and are like, "Oh, this is a happy town," or "This has more resources," or whatever. So I don't know that. Again, I'm evaluating questions. I look for that complexity, and so that dichotomy that we often put in town, I don't know that it's there. Another weird ass thought that I had in the community plan advisory committee
kind of goes into the other, though.
Well, they do. Like we are a community. The community of Banff includes residents and visitors. Like there's visitors all the time. There's residents all the time. They are part of our community. How do we build a community for everybody? I think should be our focus, not like, oh, we need to focus on residents or oh, we need to focus on visitors. Yes, we need to do both of those focuses, and sometimes they're different things, but often it's about how do we do it the best for everybody.
For sure.
Cool. I never thought about it that way before, but that does make a lot of sense.
That's a great answer to the question. I was like, I like that. We've talked about the community plan a whole bunch throughout this episode. What are some of the more important points in your opinion, or maybe something that's missing from it?
Can I read you more of the community plan?
Please do, yeah. Okay.
So I think unfortunately to me, some of the most overlooked stuff in the discussion about the community plan was the part 2, Imagining Banff in 2040, and the principles and vision. So I want to read a couple paragraphs, 3, I think, from the community plan. Okay, so because I love the vision, and you may have noticed that long-term vision thing is part of how I work, right? So locals will thrive, benefiting from economic opportunities that arise in tandem with strong conservation efforts. The adoption of innovative infrastructure and smart technology will ensure visitor flows are well managed, minimizing people's ecological footprint and preserving the tranquility of the national park. By 2040, every individual feels valued, represented, and empowered to contribute their unique perspectives, fostering a culture of mutual respect and collaboration across all sectors of society. The town of Banff stands as a shining example of how a community can effectively resolve a housing crisis while maintaining its unique character and sense of place. Revenue generated from tourism is reinvested in our community, financing infrastructure improvements, conservation efforts, and social programs. This investment enhances the quality of life for residents, creating a self-sustaining loop of economic prosperity and environmental stewardship.
Cool. That's great as a plan.
Yeah.
Shouldn't this all be being done in itself, like reinvestment
For
of
sure.
local funds
That's
into
right.
infrastructure for locals?
I mean, which we're doing, and it's not
Yeah.
like it's this vision is not trying to say some of this stuff is not already happening, but let's focus and put our attention on that, right? So, how are we making sure that we're doing these things, and like the principles, which again we didn't talk
Because
about.
I think that maybe could be done more as far as the reinvesting
Well, that's
into
it.
locals, right?
And I love the phrasing of the reinvesting into the locals, reinvesting into the environment, like
or infrastructure.
infrastructure. Sometimes I feel like as the municipality, because we're in the national park, we abdicate some of that environmental stuff to Parks Canada,
Right,
because we have to in some ways, and
Well, yeah,
like
we
we
can't,
have environmental departments, and like the planning and environment department, like it's renamed itself so that it keeps that focus. So I'm not saying we're not doing stuff, right? And is it enough? Is it in the ways that the municipality would be looking at it first, as opposed to, okay, now we know we're going to need an environmental assessment from Parks Canada. Let's wait for them to do it and tell us those things.
Well, I don't know. For me, it's just like we have all these creative, innovative ideas on how we can solve it. Underground parking, maybe a second vehicle bridge across to our 3 main attractions over there. But the problem always seems to be funding, or it always seems, it's going to be too costly. I don't see the cost should be an issue when we're talking about, the premier national park of Banff, right?
Why are you paying for it though? Like, where's the money coming from? Like, we got to remember, like, residents don't want to be paying more taxes.
Yeah.
Businesses don't want to be paying more taxes.
Right.
Should residents and or businesses be paying more taxes? Maybe, but like, also trying to remember that one of the games we're working within is capitalism, where their goal of that game
to make money,
is to
right?
make the most money they can. So they're going to be advocating to not pay any more taxes than they have to, because that's the system that we live in. And so we got to recognize that as a reality and work within that too. And would I go faster in some things? Probably.
Right.
And we need to bring all the people along with us. Otherwise, we're going to be a divided community that doesn't like each other, and we're not actually going to do things well. And like, kind of like that employer-employee relationship, you're going to start vandalizing shit, and you're going to be like, no, and protesting bridges because it's wrecking the environment, or it's benefiting only the businesses up there, and it's not actually benefiting locals. Like, there's so much complexity to all of these things that we really need to work on that conversation we have too. So
Well, I think we're in that unique position now, and is that we get to vote the perceptions that we want into the town council, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which is why we're all here. If you could make one major change in policy today that would define Banff's future, what would it be and why?
That is a fantastic question. And again, I don't have a good answer to it because, well, no, I have a good answer. I love my answer. I don't have a straightforward one-line answer to it because I can't, right? But shifting that focus, right? That worrying less about the reacting to what's going on today and shifting that focus to some of these awesome plans, like the Heritage Master Plan, the Environmental Master Plan, the Transportation Master Plan. They have some stuff in there, some of which we've been moving on.
Yep.
But like, okay, so if we agreed already, because we've adopted these documents, that this is the community we want to be, let's be focusing on getting that stuff through at a faster rate rather than reacting to some of these things. And as we're working there, some of the stuff that might look reacting, but let's be conscious that it's actually for this vision and we're doing this for this reason. And that's what the conversation needs to be about. It's not about solving issue of today. It's about being this vision, this community that we want to be. So that shift in direction, more so than specific policy change, is how I answer that question.
Yeah, like more, what's the broader vision moving forward than
and actioning it.
Then should we stop it at 3,000?
That's right. And like broader vision, we don't need more vision statements. We don't need more plans. We don't I want to be doing these things. I want to be making these things happen.
So you want to be focused on implementation.
The implementation is so important. And like in the community plan, like finding those markers, finding, how we're going to judge,
Right.
whether we're making progress or not. And some of the indicators that I think are super important that as a committee, we could not get into this plan in the time period we had, nor were we the people who were experts on indicators. Some of the indicators aren't necessarily up as good or up as bad, but knowing what we're dealing with is so important. So how do we get the indicators? How do we see how we're affecting them? And do we like that change in effect today? And maybe the change in effect later in the same direction is not the one we want. And so then we have to adjust then, but we don't know whether it's good or bad or what it is if we're not measuring that stuff. So
Very true. Very well said. I think not putting our eggs all in one basket as far as solutions is probably a good way to move forward.
I mean, we could also try all the eggs in one basket thing too. That's not where I lean though.
No doubt.
Why should people vote for you?
So you should vote for me if you want a counselor who is thoughtful and prepared. If you want a counselor who recognizes the complexity of being a visitor service center within a national park, who recognizes the complexity of having fixed limits on growth within a world that expects growth to be exponential. You should you should vote for me if you want somebody who's got a proven track record of seeking input from as many voices as possible and bringing people along in decision making.
I would say you're the first one that's actually mentioned capitalism and that is a factor in all of this, right?
Well, it's true. Nobody's going to invest all their money into something, not make money at it. That's just.
Or maybe they will because we've convinced them to do something different. But right now, the system and the way we're working, that's not how it goes.
So we've also disincentivized development to a point where it's no longer financially viable, and now we're in a housing crisis. We need houses to build.
And so how do we encourage the things we want? There are people who want to do stuff not just money motivated, and we have businesses in town who are that way too. But how do we encourage? That's right. And how do we encourage that more? And not saying that you're bad if you don't do it, but just how you encourage that to happen more often.
Well, in my opinion, those businesses deserve a stronger foothold in town because their motivations are more aligned with the town and with the park system than.
And some businesses do that we don't even know they do either, right?
True.
Because I don't have the in-depth knowledge of all the businesses, so maybe there's more of them out there than I think there is too.
True.
Fair enough.
What are you most hopeful for when you think about the future of Banff?
Oh, we got so many opportunities to be so amazing and to show everybody how you can live differently, how you can actually live within limits, how we can do capitalism differently, we can do markets differently, we can do that balance and that interaction between the environment and a community differently. We have so many opportunities to do that. And I'm super hopeful that we're moving in that direction, that we keep moving in that direction, and that we do it better.
I would agree. Al. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Love it. Thanks for having me.
This has been awesome. Like I said, I feel like giving people the opportunity to kind of show who they are a little bit more on a longer form conversation, I think is beneficial. I've talked to a few people that have ran for council in the past that felt maybe underrepresented in their coverage or in their public output, I guess I want to say. I don't know. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thanks for providing the opportunity. Like I said, I don't have quick answers for people. And so the opportunity to go into stuff and to have that kind of feedback and get it out publicly, love it. Thanks so much.
We gave you more than a minute.
I appreciate it. Because a minute is not enough, my friends.
And again, I think we're faced with nuanced issues, and to throw solutions at it without understanding the full nuances of what our decisions are kind of impacting is a big thing to bring to the table. We want to thank everyone for tuning in to our first double header. We got plenty more coming to you as we head into the election. We got to thank Drink Shaft. We got to thank Rose and Crown. All the sponsors, everyone tuning in, you guys have been great. Lots of support in the streets. Love you guys coming out saying thank you for what we're doing. We're learning a ton. We hope you are too. We just want to keep chatting about this place we all love, and then we can all make a more informed decision when we go to the ballot box on October 20th for our municipal election.
That's right. That's what we're here for.
Well, that's all the time we got today. Thanks again, everyone, and like every week,
see you next Tuesday.